Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be showing you this full coverage look right here, but it's a little different than full coverage looks I've done in the past. It's a super glowy, dewy, luminous finish full coverage look. So I'm still using full coverage foundations, a full coverage lip liner, and full coverage concealer, but the overall look that I'm going for is a really dewy, glowy, fresh look. I didn't want it to look too cakey and powdery. I really wanted to keep it luminous and fresh. So if you want to see how I got this makeup look right here, then please keep watching. I've already done some minimal eye makeup, so I'm just going to move right into skin, which is the whole focus of this video, and I'm going to use my Becca Backlight Priming Filter, which is just a super glowy base, and I actually find that this makes my foundation last longer, even though it's kind of like a glowy base, and you'll see when I rub it in that it just really kind of brightens everything up and gives like a reflecting sheen to the skin, but doesn't make it too greasy. I have oily skin and I don't find that when I use this I look like super greasy throughout the day. And then for foundation, I'm going for a really glowy full coverage look today, so I'm going to get my hair out of the way, and then I'm going to use the Lawless Woke Up Like This foundation, and I have this in the shade Oasis, and then the Osmosis Performance Wear Satin foundation, and I have this in the shade Golden Light. So this Osmosis one is just like a little dark for me, the Lawless one is a little light for me, so mixing the two of them right now is a really nice combo. And I'm going for the full coverage glowy look, so I'm going to do a full pump of each. That's one pump of the Osmosis, and then I'm going to add a full pump of the Lawless. And then we can go back in with more if needed, but I'm going to take my damp beauty blender and just mix those on the back of my hand first. And then start dabbing that all over. And these two mixed together is kind of like the perfect shade for me. And the reason that I picked these two foundations is because the Osmosis is a super glowy, natural, skin-like finish. Every time I wear it, I feel like my skin looks really great throughout the day. It wears really well throughout the day, and I just love the way it looks, and it does give like a glowy base, and that on its own, I would just highly recommend this foundation. It's super beautiful. But the Lawless gives like a really intense amount of coverage, which is what I'm going for in this look. So since I wanted it to be really full coverage, I mixed that one in and to get the perfect color, but it really just, I find, amps up any other foundation that I mix it in with. So that's what I've been doing lately, and I'm not going to cake on too much, although one full pump of each of those kind of is a lot. So I'm going to just keep blending here until all of this melts into my skin and looks really natural and radiant. And these two foundations do a really great job of giving really full coverage on a lot of my imperfections, but I do have a couple that are very glaring. This huge spot in between my eyes is just something else. So I'm going to take a little bit of my Clé de Peau Beauty Concealer in the shade Ivory on my finger here. I just grabbed a little bit, and then I'm going to tap that right there and just leave it for a second. I'll blend it out later. And then I'm also going to add some. I have this giant zit on my neck, which is just lovely. So I added some concealer to those two locations, and I'm just going to go back over with my beauty blender and make sure it's blended out just a little bit. Now I'm going to let the foundation kind of set in a little bit, and I'm going to take my Becca Under Eye Brightening Corrector, which is this pinky, salmony, undertoned kind of concealer that you can put on under your concealer, and I'm just going to grab some with my ring finger and then spread it between the two ring fingers like so, and just lightly dab this on under the eyes. And I'm just using the heat from my fingers to let this melt right in so that it kind of flawlessly blends in. And I find the key with this product is a little bit goes a long way. If you use too much and you're like me and you have oily skin, then it will just kind of get greasy and crease right away. But if you use just a little bit, it kind of gets the job done and doesn't move around. I think if you have dry skin, you can kind of pack a bunch on and it won't really matter. And now to get that full coverage, bright, luminous look, I'm going to use my Mercier Flawless Fusion Ultra Longwear Concealer. I have this in the shade 1C, and I'm going to put that right on top. Then I'm going to pick up my damp beauty blender again and just blend that in under the eyes. And then to set the under eyes, I'm going to quickly take my Mercier Translucent Powder and just pick some of this up with the corner of my damp beauty blender, like so, and just set under the eyes there. And now to bronze up before I set the face, I'm going to go in with my Chanel Soleil Tan de Chanel, and I'm going to find my favorite brush to apply this with, which is the Sigma F84. It's kind of this like angled kabuki brush, and I just pick some of this up and really get it into kind of like my bronzy area and in my cheekbones here. And I find the key with this is you just kind of stipple it on like so. If you drag it around, it will really move the foundation underneath, especially with a dense brush like this. but just kind of tapping it on and stippling it into the skin makes it apply really diffused and nice and not take away any of that coverage underneath, because we're going for the full coverage like glowy look today, so we don't want to lose any of that coverage from the foundation. And adding a bronzer like this underneath powder bronzer just means that it's going to look even more glowy and luminous and be longer lasting and give more of a full coverage effect. And now that bronzer's applied all over, I'm going to go in with my favorite glowy powder, and this is the MAC Mineralize Skinfinish. I have mine in the shade Light Plus, and this is just a super beautiful luminous finish powder, but I find that it also mattifies a little bit. You have something in my hair. I find that it just mattifies a little bit and gives a nice glow to the skin. At the same time, it kind of adds a little bit of coverage, takes away any shine from my oiliness, but since it is like a mineral powder, it still leaves a like luminous finish to the skin without looking too dry or too oily. And I try to avoid powdering all up onto my bronzy area. I just kind of go around it. Of course, some of it will get covered, but we're gonna add in some more bronze later with our powder bronzer. So I did kind of a light dusting of powder, nothing too crazy and cakey because I still want to maintain that luminous look. And then I'm going to go in with my powder bronzer, and I'm going to use my Becca Capri Coast bronzer, which is like probably my all-time favorite bronzer and just my favorite for summer. And there's like several shades of this. You can get a slightly darker one if you're more tanned, but if you're fair, I would definitely recommend this Capri Coast color. And I'm just picking that up on my Real Techniques Duo Fiber face brush, and then lightly in circular motions, adding this right on top of where I applied that Chanel bronzer. And then also on top of the forehead where I applied the Chanel. And to make the whole look glowy, I'm going to take my NARS Ita brush and then dip it into that same Capri Coast bronzer. And just take this down the sides of my nose to help define it and just make it look more tanned. And I already applied a light bit of eyeshadow, but I'm just going to take a little bit of this bronzer on the Sigma E40 brush and add a little bit of that through the eyes, because this is a really nice glowy bronzy color. I quickly filled in my lips and my brows, and I'm going to move on to highlight, which is my favorite part of this look when you're going for that glowy look. And I'm going to use my Persona Cali Glow highlighter in the shade Laguna, which is this really beautiful like light white champagne-y color. And I'm taking this EcoTools fan brush and just picking some up on there and applying this all over the tops of my cheekbones to start. And with this particular product, I find that the fan brush applies it best and diffuses it out. I've tried it with a denser brush and it just didn't blend as well on the skin like some other ones do, so the fan brush really works well. So I'm just also adding some to the tip of my nose and my cupid's bow here. And then I'm taking a dense little shader brush and picking up that same highlighter, and I'm going to really pack this on in my inner corner because that's my favorite part of makeup, is inner corner highlight. And then I'm also going to add some under the brow bone. And then for a bright glowy blush, I'm going to use my CoverGirl True Blend blush in the shade 100 Light Rose, which is this really nice pearly, rosy, like mineralized looking blush. And I'm just taking this on my MAC 168 brush and adding it to the cheeks. There's tons of beautiful glowy brushes you could use. This is just my favorite one. And for me, a glowy look really like works well with some rosy cheeks, so I'm not afraid to kind of pack this on, but if you don't like a strong blush, just do less. And then I'm also adding a little bit. I just took the excess on my brush and did some on the top of my forehead and on the bridge of my nose and just wherever, just make the whole look tie together when you kind of have your blush all over the face, but not in a messy way, in an on-purpose way. And then one final step, I'm going to go back in with my Beauty Blender and just kind of blend on top of everything. This really helps, especially if you get too heavy-handed with blush or bronzer or highlight, or if anything's just not quite blended anymore. For me, for this kind of like full coverage glowy look, I'm not going for a super structured, you know, contoured look. I just want the whole face to be overall and glowy, but also all my imperfections to be hidden. So I'm not worried about kind of tamping this all over the face and getting a really blended in, diffused look. So once I blended everything in and it looks pretty good, I'm just going to do one final step, and that is use my Glam Glow Glow Setter Makeup Setting Spray and just kind of drench my face in this. And once everything's set into place, I'm just going to take my Bite Agave Lip Mask, and this is the one in the shade Champagne, which is like the shiny pink one, and it kind of has gold reflex in it. I'm going to take a little bit of this and just dab that on top of my lips. And now this is the finished look. I love the all over glowy look, and it really is full coverage, kind of covered all my imperfections for the most part, but still left a really glowy, dewy base, and that was the vibe I was going for today. And that's it for this glowy, luminous, dewy, full coverage makeup look. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. As always, all the products that I used and mentioned will be listed in the description box down below, so please check that out if you're curious. I also upload 2 days a week on Monday and Thursday, so please subscribe if you haven't already. And if you have subscribed, I would really appreciate it if you would tell a friend about my channel. It really helps me out. I really appreciate all your guys' comments and support, so thank you so much for that, and I'll see you next time with a brand new video.